Hey, I'm Randy and you're watching The Cheap Audio Man. Here at The Cheap Audio Man, we help folks find high-value hi-fi, home theater, and headphone equipment. And today we're going to help you put together a Raspberry Pi with a display, install Volumio, and have you up and running and enjoying music in no time. So sit down, grab the beverage of your choice, and let's put together a Volumio Pi streamer. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is go over to Volumio and download the software. So once you get to Volumio, it's pretty straightforward. Just click on Learn More and then download Volumio here. And then just scroll down, click the download. And you're going to get a zip file over here. And once that's finished downloading, we will flash it to a micro SD card. When you have it downloaded, you can come down to the bottom of this page that we were just on, and it says flash it, Bellini Etcher. If you don't have Bellini Etcher, download it first. And just make sure you have a little micro SD card. This is a 32 gig one. You don't have to have a huge one, but they're cheap now. So I got a 32 gig. Then you just plug this into your SD card reader. I just plug that in. Okay, so it showed up. I'm going to open up Bellini Etcher here, and we're going to flash it again. Bellini Etcher. Flash from file. There's Volumio. You can see I've downloaded a few times. Double click on that. It automatically recognized my card. So I hit flash. And then yes, allow that to happen. And then it's just gonna flash it. Flash it. Flash it to the drive. Alright. Flashing. And then so this will go through and then it's going to verify the flash. And I have only had it fail one time. I redid it and it worked just fine. So if it doesn't go on the first time, then just do it again. All right, so now it's validating. And this has gotten better because it used to take a lot longer than this. All right, and then so you're gonna get this message here, but don't format the disk because you'll erase what you just flashed. So that's it. Flash complete. So now we've put the micro SD card into the Raspberry Pi, turned it on, and what I just did was I just reset the one that I have. So when you reset it, if you have a Raspberry Pi 3 or 4, it's going to put off its own hotspot. So I'll go into networks here, and there's Volumio right there. I'll click on that. And the password is Volumio 2. And it should come right up, which it did. So click English. Let's see if I can make this bigger. All right, English, next. Choose a unique name. I'll call this Cam Volumio 2. Hit next. Okay, so this can be where one can get confused. And I've gotten confused. I2S DAC here. If you are connecting a hat, you would want to select yes. When you select yes, it'll give you a drop-down menu. And you can select which hat you have. If you're connecting a USB DAC, though, you want that to be off. And then it'll give you options HDMI or headphone. We'll come back to that setting later, though. Okay, I'll hit next again. Now, this is where it gives you the chance to enter your Wi-Fi info. So I'll do that, and I'll connect. Next. And then count. All right. So now it's restarting. Now you can do this either through your computer or through your phone with the Volumio app. If you do it through your computer, you have to figure out what IP address that new Pi or your Raspberry Pi is on, and that's the way you can get it. Or you can type in volumio.local, and if you're on the same network, it should show up. I'm going to show you how to do it on the app though. So I'll open up the Volumio app, and it shows up under Cam Volumio 2. I've got the other one up there, Cam Pi Volume 1. So I'll click on Volume 2, all right? And I'll minimize that, go over here to Settings, and now we can go into the plugins. We are going to have to install a bunch of plugins. So here's if you want 80s radio, Rune Bridge, I'll install that. And it's going to take you through the installation process, and this is all going over Wi-Fi unless you're hardwired. So sometimes it does take a little bit of time. You can click on Show Details, and it will show you if it's making any progress or not. And usually this doesn't take too terribly long. I'm not going to install all the plugins, but I will install the plugins that I need. Okay, so this one is installed, and that was the Rune Bridge. So we will enable that. Bandcamp, I don't need that, don't need that. Mini DLNA, don't need that. Personal radio, don't need that. Radio Paradise, SoundCloud, Spotify. Okay, so I want to install Spotify. And there's two Spotifys, Volumio Spotify Connect 2 and Spotify. So they have two authors. One's the Volumio team, one is Bell Buzz and whatever. I'm going to install the one that's from the Volumio team. But if I want to do the other one later, I certainly can. And again, I'll click on Show Details just to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And because it has a tendency to just to hang up for a while at 70%. So I like to make sure that it's actually doing something. And they don't take too long depending upon which one it is. And if it ever hangs up, just kill the app, go back in. Sometimes it gets installed even though it doesn't show it was 100% installed. So you can kill the app, go back in, select that Pi, and see what you have for installed plugins. There we go. All right, enable plugin. All right, so now I have Spotify enabled. I have Rune Bridge enabled. You have YouTube Cast Receiver. I'm not going to install that right now. What I do want to install though, since we're going to be adding a display, is up here it says System Hardware. Touch display. So we're going to install that plugin. Again, I'm going to hit Show Details just so I know what is going on. This one takes a little bit longer than the other ones though. The display plugin takes longer. And I've had to do it twice before because it's gotten hung up. This one still shows that we're unpacking stuff, so that is a good sign. But if you have a dropout in Wi-Fi or something like that, it can mess this whole thing up real quick. All right, it looks like it's starting to set this stuff up, creating databases, setting up other things, which is a good sign. I don't know anything about computer speak, but I'm assuming it's a better sign than it saying unpacking. Or at least we're getting closer to the end. Yay! We're done! Okay, enable plugin. Boop. That one always makes me nervous. Okay, so at this point, it's always a very good idea to go over to shut down and then hit restart. All right, so I restarted it, showed back up in my Volumio app, so I'll click on it and I'll come back over here into plugins, and it says Spotify login failed because, well, I didn't log into it. So I'll go into plugins, go into installed plugins, Rune Bridge, Spotify, Touch Display, all installed. It says Touch Display is active, Rune Bridge is active. So that is a good thing. So to get everything entered for the streaming services, and all this stuff is on, you generally don't have to worry about most of this stuff. But what I want to do is I want to connect my Tidal subscription. So I'll click yes. Okay. Let's see if it showed up. Whoops. Go back, hit the file. There's Tidal. All right. So let's go into playlists, see if it pulled mine through, and sure enough, there they all are. So let's see if it'll play something. Pearl Jam Essentials. Play. Hey, look at that. All right, so we are playing some Pearl Jam right now. I don't have anything hooked up to it, but I know it's working. Now, if you want to go back in here and go into sources and then sign into your Qobuz account, it'd be right there. You can also start a free trial. Here's some album art settings. Let's see if this will pick up my NAS. All right, so come back here to folders, and then I'll go to media servers, and look at that right there. My NAS is right there. Alien Ant Farm, yeah. American Pie soundtrack, Audio Slave. All right, look at all that. Then let's see if it will play some Audio Slave. Look at that. All right, sometimes it gets weird when I want to skip tracks though. Nope, it's working just fine. And then if you want to do shuffle, click on the little three dots, and then you hit the shuffle button up there. Then you hit it again, and it's working just fine. And this is all going through Wi-Fi. So I have my NAS hooked up to Wi-Fi. This is hooked up to Wi-Fi, and the Pi is hooked up to Wi-Fi. And you can look at, let's see the latency on here. So we'll go 1,000, 1,000. So less than a 2-second delay through Wi-Fi going from my NAS. Let's see what the delay is on Tidal. Tidal. All right, down here to Tidal. Bear in mind right now we have a track going from my NAS. Go back into playlists. We'll choose a different playlist. COVID. All right. Click on that. Okay, so that was very quick too. So that was probably 3 seconds to switch from my NAS to Tidal. All right, and then I'm going to 1,000, 1,000, 3, 1. Okay, so about 2.5 seconds to switch tracks on shuffle from a playlist from Tidal. Very good. So let's go back to some settings, playback options, because this is the area where things can get dicey if you're using either a hat or you're using a USB DAC. So at the top is output devices. If you don't have a hat, you want to leave I2S DAC off. Under general playback options, I just leave all of this alone. I will increase the buffer size to 4 megabytes just to be safe. And whenever you make a change, you want to save it. All right, it says it's saved correctly. Volume options. So if you're using hardware, you can change the volume on the device, your device itself, or you can change it on whatever hardware you're connected to. If you have the option for hardware, I would leave it in hardware because it gives you the best of both worlds. You can do software controlled volume control and you can control the volume. There is other options. You can hit none or you can hit just software, but I would keep it in hardware. Mixer control name, all this other stuff, I just leave it as is. But if you want to go in there and start messing around with things, you can. I also leave audio resampling off. I'll go ahead and click save. So it's updated. And whenever you're doing a bunch of different settings, things like that, it's always a good idea to go ahead and go in here, shut down, and then restart. So at this point, we've restarted it. When I restarted it, I connected an SMSL DAC and I connected it to the USB. So while it was off, I connected a powered DAC to the USB, okay? I also killed the Volumio app. So I'm going to reopen the Volumio app. Click on Volumio. Okay, both of my Pis show up. Both of them are running, so they have cool little album art. Cam Volumio 2, so I'll click on that one. Go back into playback options. I2S DAC is off. Now when we click on output device, SMSL USB audio. That's what I want. Click that, click save. Okay, it says it's configured, configuration update, player successfully restarted. All right, so now I'm going to press play on this, and it's playing. Oh, okay, so what I did is I turned off the USB. I'll turn the USB back on. Okay, there we go. And guess what? It is playing through the SMSL DAC right now. Okay, so I put on a hat, not a DAC hat, not a Digi hat, a Metallica hat. So let's put this thing together. So at this point, you should have a Raspberry Pi, 3 or 4. This one's a 4. Okay. One of the things to take note of is where is the ribbon cable thingamabopper at. So it's at the top, also right next to where the SD card is. Then you take your display, and again, you want to pay attention to where the ribbon cable goes. And if you're going to run a digital hat off of here, you cannot, well, I think you can, but it's not straightforward on powering the display from the board. So you would have to connect a micro USB, and that's the old-fashioned USB connections that just about everybody had to charge things. Again, if you're putting a digital hat on here, you're going to have to power the display from another 5-volt charger, cell phone charger, little brick, things like that. So the display comes with a ribbon cable, looks like this, and I'm going to take pictures of what everything looks like when it's put together. A ribbon cable, and then it comes with 4 different colored leads. So you have red, black, yellow, and green. So the first thing you can do is take the green one and then put it somewhere else, and then take the yellow one and then put that somewhere else. What we're going to do initially is screw the Pi into the back of the display. And the display does come with standoffs. So you just screw the standoffs in, and then you'll just put the Pi right on top. So the first step is to install the ribbon cable onto the screen board on the back. There are these little black tabs right here, and they're both connected, so it's one piece. And what one wants to do is pull that out a little bit. Okay? Now, when you install the ribbon cable, you want to install it with the blue side facing down. It's very simple. You'll just slide it in, and once it bottoms out, make sure that it's set there, and then you will push the little black tabs into place. Now, after you've got the ribbon cable installed on the display board, then you can screw in the Raspberry Pi on top of the standoffs, and you want to orient it so that the ribbon cable from the Pi is lined up on the same side as the ribbon cable with the display board. Now, when you're screwing these into the standoffs, I mean, make sure it's snug, but don't over torque this thing or over tighten it at all. It doesn't take too much. And all the standoffs and the screws are supplied with the display board. Get it just a little bit snug, but that's about it. You don't need it over tightened. Once you have all of the screws attached, then it's going to be one single assembly that you can pick up like that. Now we'll install the ribbon cable into the Pi itself. And it's very straightforward. Since we already installed it on the display board, it is perfectly oriented. But again, there is this plastic sleeve, and that's what actually holds the ribbon cable in place. So that will move in and out. To connect the cable, you want it out. So you'll just wrap it around, line it up, and slide it right in. And then you secure, you push down the little black tabs on both sides. And then what I do is I just make sure that it's even on all sides, and I give it just a little bit of a tug to make sure that it's being captured in there. Now the only thing we have left to do is connect the power leads from the Raspberry Pi to the display board. So there are 5 pins on the bottom, and I'll show you a picture. But the pin, if you have the Ethernet and the USB ports facing to your left, so they're facing left, the pin furthest to the right is the positive pin on the display board. The pin furthest to the left is the ground pin on the display board. So what we'll do is we'll take our red wire for positive, and we'll plug that into the lead or the post all the way to the right with the USB ports facing to your left. So it should be facing closest to you. So the pin should be facing closest to you and not away from you. Then we'll take the black lead and we will plug that into the post all the way to the left. So it'll be post number 1, if we're counting from left to right, post number 1 will be the ground. Post number 5 will be the positive. Now plugging it into the Pi itself can be a little bit tricky. It's not really that tricky. There are 2 rows of pins. The row of pins closest to us are the ones we want to plug into. The positive is going to go into the second to last pin on the right, and I'll take pictures. And then the negative will go right next to it on the left. So it'll be the second to the last pin closest to us from the right is the positive lead on the board, on the Pi, and the third pin to the left is the negative. So I'll just show you a picture. It's very easy. So when you're all done, it should look like this. So you have the ribbon cable over here, and then you'll have your positive and negatives right there. And again, I'll take close-up pictures because it doesn't show up very good on the video. Okay, so I'm going to plug this in and make sure everything is hooked up because it was working and then I took it apart to show this. So I want to make sure it's working okay. So it's up and running. The display works. Tracks skip. Everything's connected the way it's supposed to be connected. Running through the DAC, running into the stereo. So working great. So if you're going to get a display case, make sure you're not running a digital hat because most of those cases don't accommodate a digital hat. They will only accommodate a Pi. But if you're just running USB out into a DAC, then you don't need a digital hat. Now here's one more idea that I came up with, and I'm going to put this to the test to see. So what one needs is a power bank, something that has pretty good output. So this one is 4.2 amp out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the Pi to this and maybe even a 5-volt DAC to this. I'm going to connect the charging cord into a smart plug-in. Then I'm going to do a schedule. What's going to happen is I will be charging this at night when I'm sleeping, and then in the morning it will turn off the charge, and the Raspberry Pi and the DAC will be running off a straight DC power. So is that going to make a difference in sound quality? I don't know, but I think it's cool, so I'm going to try that. So get a power bank. Run your DAC, but make sure your DAC's a 5-volt DAC. Run your DAC and the Pi off of the battery bank. Put it on a smart plug, run a schedule, charge that thing at night where you're not listening to it, and see if it works. So I'm going to see if it works too. If you want to support the channel, you can sign up for Patreon, patreon.com/cheapaudioman. Every Sunday night we have Patreon-only Zooms. We also have a Patreon-only Facebook group. You can also sign up for Amazon Music. There's a link in the description. Click on the link, sign up. You get 3 months for free. I get a couple of dollars even if you cancel. However, if you're going to run Amazon Music through your Raspberry Pi, the only way you can do that is through AirPlay. You can also use the affiliate links in the description. Not all the links are affiliates, but most of them are, which means if you buy a Raspberry Pi or a Raspberry Pi display or Raspberry Pi display case, then I'll get a commission. It doesn't cost you any more, but it's a great way to support the channel. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen through your brand new Raspberry Pi that you put together all by yourself, running Volumio, and fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.